Okay, welcome back to my 32 and 32. I'm now going to be covering the Pittsburgh Penguins. And as I do with all my videos, I display their home jersey in the reverse retro. I gotta say, I'm a big fan of this. This is obviously a throwback to the 90s when they had the 2D logo of the Penguin. I still think that's pretty cool to this day. And let's take a little moment here to just go through all the jerseys that the Penguins had just a season ago. So they had their 2023 Classic. That's interesting to say the least. It just has the letter P and has the word Penguins on their pants. And then they also had this as their alternate, which I really like. If they had brought that for the other reverse retro from like 2021, when it was the white jersey with the Pittsburgh wording on it, I would have thought that would have been like a pretty like a full circle for that there. And then they also had this as their alternate. So they've had about they're home and away. That's two. This is three, four, five, and six. They had six different jerseys to choose from last year, which is mind blowing. Most teams only have three or four. So the Penguins always like to have different styles, I guess, when it comes to their jerseys. So last year they finished with a record of 40 wins, 31 losses, and 11 overtime slash shootout losses for 91 points, narrowly missing out on the postseason. And what's mind blowing is that they had a record for about 15 straight years. They made the postseason from 2007 till 2022. They made the playoffs every single year, and in that 15-year span, they went to four Stanley Cup Finals, winning three of them. So obviously they had a lot of success when they had their run. So I'm sure it's pretty much copper bust for this upcoming year because they got a lot of veteran players on their team that aren't aging, that aren't getting any younger, to say the least. So I'll just go over a few of the additions that they have signed in the offseason. So they brought over Noel Acciari. He spent last year split between the St. Louis Blues and the Toronto Maple Leafs. So he's pretty much like a bottom six guy, in my opinion, a veteran forward. He's been to the Cup final before with the Boston Bruins, but he was on the wrong side of that victory. Ryan Graves, the defenseman, they have signed him to a 6-year deal, so he'll be sticking around the city of Pittsburgh for quite some time. They brought in Matt Nieto, again, kind of like a top nine, bottom six guy you have on your team. He's now signed to a 2-year contract. He is coming over from the Colorado Avalanche. And then, to me, this is kind of a question mark. Obviously, they need help on the goaltending side of things, but they already have their number one guy, and I'll go over that in just a second. But they brought in Alex Nedeljkovic. Oh my gosh. Try saying that name three times fast. He has now signed on a 1-year contract. This is now going to be his third team. Started off at Carolina. Looked like he was going to run away with that starting job. Then he went to Detroit and didn't fare out as well as they had hoped. So now he's going to test out his luck in the Steel City. Two other names, Vinny Histronoza. He is signed on a 1-year contract. He is coming over from the Buffalo Sabres. And Lars Eller split last season between the Washington Capitals and the Colorado Avalanche. So now I'll take a look at the team's rosters. And as I always do, we'll look at players that have re-signed, have yet to sign, or have gone to another team. Let's pull up that. So move this back. Somewhat noticeable. Okay, so we'll take a look at their goaltending situation. So Tristan Jarry has re-signed on a 5-year contract, so he's the starting goaltender. Casey DeSmith was flipped on that three-way team trade between the Sharks and Montreal. He went to the Canadiens, then he got flipped just a few days ago to the Vancouver Canucks, so he should be the backup goaltender there. And obviously, Alex Nedeljkovic should back up Tristan Jarry this upcoming season. So Josh Archibald has now left Pittsburgh, and he is on his way to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Nick Bonino split last season between the Sharks and the Penguins. He is now signed with the New York Rangers. Carter still has 1 more left to go on his contract. Crosby has 2 more left to go on his deal. Brandon Dumoulin has left Pittsburgh. He is now gone to the Seattle Kraken. Mark Friedman is coming up to the last year of his deal. Michael Granlund still has 2 more years left to go on his contract. Sorry, no, I think he got flipped. Yeah, I'm almost positive Michael Granlund got flipped. Yeah, I think he got traded to San Jose. Jake Gensel's coming up to the last year of his contract. Danton Heinen is still a free agent. Pierre-Olivier Joseph has 1 more left to go on his contract. Dmitry Kulikov has now signed with the Florida Panthers. I believe this is now going to be his second stint with said team. Chris Letang still has 5 more years left to go on his contract. Evgeny Malkin has 3 more years left to go on his deal. Alexander Nylander, I believe he's still part of the Penguins because I've checked multiple different sources and it's still saying that he's still a member of the team, but I haven't seen his contract situation. Drew O'Connor has re-signed with the Penguins on a 2-year contract. Jeff Petrie was traded in that three-way team, again with the Penguins, the Canadiens, and the Sharks, and then he was traded back to Montreal, but then Montreal traded him to his hometown, Detroit, so he'll be lacing the skates up as a Detroit Red Wing. Marcus Peterson still has 2 more years left to go on his contract. Ryan Poehling has left Pittsburgh, but he signed with their Pennsylvania rival in the Philadelphia Flyers. Ricard Raquel has 5 more years left to go on his contract. Chad Rudwell is coming into the last year of his deal. Brian Rust has 5 more years left to go on his contract. Jan Ruda, they acquired him last offseason, has 2 more years left to go on his deal. And Jason Zucker has left the Pittsburgh organization, and he is heading to Arizona. So I'll just quickly go back to where the team's logos are and make my prediction for this upcoming year. Okay, just make sure this is somewhat straight. There we go. So coming into this 2023-2024 campaign, for the Penguins, they should get back in the postseason. Like I said, they narrowly missed it out just by 2 points. And obviously the game that really killed their season was against the Blackhawks last year, when that game that they should have won should have been a gimme, but evidently it was not meant to be. And because of that loss, they were on the outside looking in once the postseason went underway. I did go over a few of the offseason signings, but probably the biggest one that they did wasn't the signing. It was just a trade and getting veteran defenseman Erik Karlsson from the San Jose Sharks in that 3-team trade, like I mentioned before. I believe he's going to add to the depth. He could help humongously all around, especially on the power play. Between him and Letang, that could be a pretty deadly right-handed shot from the back end for both. They could both be on the same power play unit. They could be on a power play 1 or power play 2 units. That's a pretty good defensive pair when it comes to 2 right-handed shots. Like I said, I believe they should get back in the postseason. If they do, I think they're going to be a wild card team. I'd be very shocked if they bounce the Rangers or bounce the Devils or even were able to bounce the Hurricanes out of that top 3 spots. One of the top 3 spots in that very tough Metropolitan Division. But I'm not a betting man, but if I was, I'd bet that Pittsburgh at least gets a wild card spot at the very least, because you don't go balls in on this Erik Karlsson thing if you're just going to be missing the postseason. Obviously, he spent the last several seasons in San Jose, and they have not been able to get back in the playoffs since he was acquired back in 2018. They obviously went on that miraculous run, got to the conference final, but lost to the Blues, and that's the only time that he had success as a member of the Sharks. So maybe coming over to back to the eastern side of things, maybe he'll be able to get help his team get back into the postseason. And obviously, like I said, if you make a trade like that, you're not just making a trade just to make a trade. You're doing it to help improve your team, because with the guys like Crosby and Malkin and Letang all in their mid to late 30s, the window to win a cup is basically within the next couple of years. Because if one of these guys retires, or all 3 of these guys retired, then the team is pretty much going to be in rebuild mode at that point if they aren't already. Yeah, that's my bold prediction for the Pittsburgh Penguins. They should get back into the postseason, and obviously hockey's pretty exciting whenever the team is around. So there shouldn't be as much pressure on the team, like I said, because normally in the past it's like they have to finish in the top three. They have to finish in the top three. They could be a dangerous wild card team. If I'm going to be completely honest with you, they don't necessarily have to have home ice advantage or be in the top two in their division to make some noise in the postseason. Look back to 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. All those seasons they were bounced in the first round and they had home ice advantage, I want to say, for at least two, maybe even three of those series. So the fact that they had that home ice advantage didn't necessarily help the team moving forward. As always, if you like hockey content, I do it on the daily. Feel free to hit that sub button. And if you like what you see, and until next time, take care.